Hello, and welcome to the Week 6 devlog for QuiVr, my HTC Vive archery game. This week, again, we have another change of setting as I'm preparing for a release to the community to test out all the mechanics of the game and give me feedback after actually playing it in VR. It's not completely ready yet, but hopefully by the end of this week it will be out. So, without further ado, let's talk about some of the new features I've added this week. The first thing that hopefully you'll notice is we no longer have controllers as our main interaction method. Instead, we've replaced the controller models with hands. They're animated and rigged, so as I pull the triggers, they kind of go into this closed or grab animation. And I didn't want like normal human hands, because just bare hands, because I didn't want to kind of lock anybody into race or gender. So I've tried to create kind of gloves with this leather texture. This is not the final iteration of them. These are actually from the Leap Motion controller, their low poly hand model from their Unity package, which I just kind of replaced the texture with this leather texture. But it's been really hard to try to find any type of useful hand models that are rigged and that don't have like fingernails attached to them so that I could make a glove out of them. The other, I've added obviously some of these physics objects because they're fun to play with here, and they're always great to use. So you'll be able to play around with those. The other thing that I've been working on a lot this weekend is the audio for the game. Before I go into that, though, I just remembered I would like to show you the other part of this, the hand system, which is the animation for using an arrow. So when you grab an arrow from your QuiVr, it kind of puts it into the holding an arrow in the bow animation where you're kind of in between your fingers, and as soon as you snap it into place, it's actually right at the correct position to pull the bowstring with the arrow. So as you move your hand around, yeah, it'll kind of move around, but it's always going to be right in that right position at the end of the arrow. As you can hopefully hear, we have some of our sounds back. Again, 3D spatial audio, so that we can pinpoint sounds in 3D space. The bow sounds are the same as they used to be when in the first couple devlogs before I changed to Unity 5.4. But the big thing that has taken a lot of time this week is the physics interactions of sounds. So the way that this works is that right now only arrows do this. So the physics objects interacting with each other don't have any sound, but arrows have specific sounds for specific materials. So shooting at wood sounds different than shooting at metal, which sounds different than shooting at rock, and that sounds different than shooting at the ground. And obviously it'll also sound different from hitting flesh. Another thing that hopefully you were able to see was shooting an arrow at physics objects affects them, and that includes enemies later on. The other big audio change that I've added is in the music department, and I'd like to show you that now. So these will be available in the demo because I just think it's really cool to play around with. Obviously, they're not aesthetically related to the scenery, but they do serve a purpose. So the way it works is the red one turns on and off the music, the white and black change the song, and the blue, green, and yellow change the speed. So first let's turn on the music. And so you should be able to hear the music now. And right now we're listening to the white, which is the kind of adventure. The black is going to be the heroic kind of battle music. So, and the important part about this is that pretty much all of this transitions are seamless between different songs and between different songs' tempos and anywhere in between those should all be fairly seamless transitions. So let's check out the battle music, and we're right now on the slowest blue setting for both of these songs. So now we've switched gears over to the battle music, and obviously it sounds fairly similar, but we're at the slowest mode. So let's take it up one notch and go to the medium. So now we're at the medium setting. Transitioning between songs takes a longer time to get to the right point. So now we've transitioned. I shot that white ball earlier. It just took some time to find the right place in the song where it could transition seamlessly between the heroic music and the adventure music. But switching between the tempos is pretty quick change. So just playing around with that, I think, is really fun. I've been almost dancing around as I've played with the higher tempos. And as you can hopefully imagine, that type of dynamic audioscape will allow for much better immersion when it comes time to bring in bosses or end phases of the actual game. So I think that that's a really great thing to have in the game that should really help the sense of immersion in the game. And all of this I'm only going to be adding to this little level for testing and everything for the version that I'll be kind of giving out to everybody to try. The other thing, I have been playing around a little bit with the particle effects. So you can see as we teleport here, we have some particle effects for teleporting in, and all of these physics objects are still interactable, and hopefully, let me see if I can shoot this. Got it. And so you can play some interesting games. This one is also a pretty fun one. You can play around with a barrel, put it on your head, and throw it around. So the other thing that I've added is, I had this a little bit in the last demo, this kind of grass system, and I showed a version on Reddit, just a GIF of kind of the full lush field system, and everybody really seemed to like that. So I've added here a kind of a GPU stress test that I will show right now. So here we can see, and I'm recording the video and running it in the editor, and I'm still getting a pretty solid frame rate. I can see stuttering every now and then, and I'm only using a GTX 980. So this full grass system and those particles are running pretty smoothly if you have a GTX or a 980 Ti, or especially if you have like a 1080 or a 1070, this should not touch you at all. But for those of us with lower graphics cards, if the computers are doing much, you may want to be careful. Oh, the other thing that people really asked about, and I hadn't shown in what I showed on Reddit, is the interaction between creatures. Oh, hopefully we'll be able to get back in as I spawn this. Okay. The interaction between creatures in the grass. So you can see there that the kobold is actually making an imprint in the grass. And if I knock him over, oops. Oh. He will fall over and correctly knock over the grass that's there. Let me switch back to not stressing my GPU. And this is also the case for the smaller, less intrusive grass. So you can see the grass around him is being knocked down, and as he falls down, he pushes over that grass. So it's fully interactable. It's all using DirectX. DirectX is a grass shader, and you can see that where he's landed, that grass is now down there. And same thing for the skull. It may be a little harder to see since he's farther away, but he knocks down the grass around him too. If I turn on my GPU, here we'll spawn another one and see if we can't get, oops. Huh. I think my frame rate is actually tanking quite a bit. So the physics calculations, yep, are there. I think you were able to see it there. So all this grass is going to be able to be affected by the creatures that are walking through the game. So I know everybody keeps asking, and I keep replying in comments that it is supported, but having left-handed archery is totally works. The only thing that I haven't been able to adjust yet is the animation for holding an arrow that's not knocked. At that point, doesn't work exactly right. So you can see the arrow isn't being held right there, but once you get it on the string, you can use it just the exact same way as you would the other hand. So this is hopefully in the end it will definitely be, but even now it's an ambidextrous system that you should be able to use, and that's something that I'm a terrible shot with the bow in my right hand, so I'll need feedback from left-handed archers about the right way to do that. I don't know if I mentioned yet, but I've replaced the existing bow model with this new, more time-appropriate model. It's completely wood with some brass, brass nut bolts and things for a more thematically appropriate bow. And I think that may be about it. Again, the hands and the sound were a lot of this week, as well as creating this little scene, and this is my hobby, not my job, so I've just been kind of working as I can. I think that's about it for this week. I look forward to hearing back from everybody about their opinions, and I'm really excited to get this scene into people's hands to play around with the bow and arrow mechanics and make sure that it's as fun as hopefully I make it seem here, because I love the games like the Labs Longbow, and I'd like everybody's feedback to make sure that this game bow feels just as good as those. So that's it for this week. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and I encourage and look for your guys' feedback over this week as I finish up add the final touches to this scene and get it ready for release, so that I can start collecting feedback from everybody about the game. So thanks again for watching, and look forward to hearing your guys' feedback. Thanks.